أهلا بيكم. لو عايزين نفهم أول 3 فصول في مسرحية ماكبث، أحسن طريقة هي إننا نشوفها كأنها فيلم إثارة نفسي. فيلم بيحكي عن إيه اللي ممكن يحصل لما الطموح يخرج عن السيطرة تماماً. النهاردة هنحلل القصة دي بالتفصيل، وده هيساعد أي حد بيذاكرها إنه يتميز في أي نقاش أو امتحان.
وده فعلا هو السؤال الأساسي في المسرحية كلها، السؤال اللي بيحولها من تراجيديا كلاسيكية عادية لقصة إثارة نفسية بتشد الأعصاب.
ممكن نتخيل قصة ماكبث دي على إنها زي قطر ماشي بأقصى سرعة. في الأول هو مبسوط بالرحلة، فاكر إنها هتوصله للمجد، لكن فجأة الفرامل بتتعطل والقطر ده بيبدأ يدمر كل حاجة في سكته. التشبيه ده بيساعدنا نفهم رحلة ماكبث بالظبط، اللي بدأ كأنه رحلة شيقة اتحول في لحظة لكارثة هو اللي صنعها بنفسه.
تمام، يلا بينا نبدأ الرحلة دي ونشوف إيه اللي حصل بالظبط. دي المحطات اللي هنقف عندها النهاردة. قصتنا بتبدأ في اسكتلندا، وبطلتنا ماكبث في قمة نجاحه. هو بطل حرب لسه راجع من انتصار ساحق على النرويج. كل حاجة كانت ماشية زي الفل، لحد ما بيحصل لقاء غريب بيغير كل حاجة. وهو راجع في طريقه بيقابل 3 ساحرات بيقولوا له نبوءتين مغريين جدا ومتضاربتين. بيقولوا لماكبث إنه هيكون ثين كودر وبعدها ملك، والصحبه بانكو بيقولوا إنه أولاده هم اللي هيبقوا ملوك.
ماكبث نفسه كان متردد إنه ياخد أي خطوة بناء على النبوءة، بس هنا بقى بيجي دور مراته ليدي ماكبث. هي اللي بتزقه وبتشجعه وبتقوله لازم يخبي نواياه الحقيقية ورا وش بريء، بالجملة الشهيرة دي.
خطتهم كانت متكاملة ومرعبة في كفاءتها، وده بيكشف لنا قد إيه ليدي ماكبث كانت مصممة إن النبوءة دي تتحقق بأي شكل وبأسرع وقت. ودلوقتي خلينا نوصل لنقطة اللا عودة، اللحظة اللي الطموح فيها بيترجم لفعل حقيقي على الأرض.
من قبل حتى ما يرتكب الجريمة، عقل ماكبث بدأ ينهار تحت الضغط، لدرجة إنه بدأ يتخيل خنجر كله دم بيشاور له على أوضة الملك.
وأول ما بينفذ الجريمة إحساس الذنب بيسيطر عليه تماماً. بيتخيل إن إيديه اتلوثت لدرجة إن محيطات العالم كلها مش هتقدر تنظفها، بل هي اللي هتتلون بلون الدم.
وهنا بنشوف الفرق الشاسع بينه وبين ليدي ماكبث، اللي كانت شايفة الموضوع أبسط من كده بكتير. شوية مية هيغسلوا الدم وهيمحوا معاهم الذنب.
وفعلاً خطة التغطية على الجريمة بتنجح بشكل مثالي. ماكبث بيقتل الحراس وبيقول إنه عمل كده من شدة غضبه، وولاد الملك دانكن بيهربوا من البلد فبيبقوا هم المشتبه فيهم. وبكده الطريق بيفضى تماماً لماكبث عشان يتوج ملك. دلوقتي ماكبث وصل للي هو عايزه وبقى الملك، بس هو خلاص ما بقى الشيء القطر. هو دلوقتي كل همه إنه يفضل سابق الحطام اللي القطر بيسيبه وراه. بس التاج مش مريحة. بيبدأ يفتكر الجزء الثاني من النبوءة إن نسل صاحبه بانكو هم اللي هيحكموا. وهنا جنون العظمة والشك بيخليه يشوف أقرب أصدقائه على إنه أكبر تهديد ليه. عشان يحل المشكلة دي بيأجر قتلة عشان يغتالوا بانكو وابنه فلينس. الخطة بتنجح نص نجاح، بانكو بيتقتل لكن فلينس بينجح يهرب، وده معناه إن النبوءة لسه عايشة والتهديد لسه موجود.
وده كان أول انهيار علني لماكبث. في وسط احتفاله، إحساسه بالذنب اللي كان جواه انفجر قدام كل الناس، وشافوا بعينيهم قد إيه الملك الجديد مش مستقر نفسياً. في اللحظة دي هو أدرك إنه دخل في دايرة عنف مغلقة بتغذي نفسها بنفسها ومفيش منها خروج. وطبعاً الأمراء والنبلاء اللي حواليه بدأوا يلاحظوا ده. واحد منهم اسمه مكدوف بيرفض يحضر حفل تتويجه وبيهرب لإنجلترا عشان ينضم لمالكولم ابن الملك المقتول. وهنا بتبدأ تتكون أول نواة للمقاومة وبتمهد للحرب اللي جاية.
طيب إيه أهم الأفكار اللي ممكن نطلع بيها من أول 3 فصول من المسرحية؟
دي تعتبر أهم المحاور اللي بتدور حواليها الأحداث لحد دلوقتي. الطموح اللي بيتحول لفساد، الإحساس بالذنب اللي مفيش منه هروب، وفكرة إن العنف بيولد عنف.
ماكبث خد التاج اللي كان بيحلم بيه، لكنه في نفس الوقت حبس نفسه في كابوس هو اللي خلقه. السؤال اللي بتسيبه لنا الأحداث هو يا ترى ممكن يقع أكتر من كده لفين؟
Welcome to The Explainer. So you're trying to wrap your head around the first 3 acts of Shakespeare's Macbeth, right? Well, this breakdown is designed to help you totally ace your next discussion or exam. We're going to treat this not as some stuffy old play, but as what it really is, a high-stakes psychological thriller.
Because this entire bloody story is really driven by one central question. And to really get a handle on Macbeth's whole journey, we're going to use an analogy that I think really works. His ambition is like a runaway train, and he's just decided to step on board.
So let's dive into Act 1. When we first meet Macbeth, he is the man. Seriously. He's this celebrated war hero, fresh off a huge victory against the Norwegian forces, and pretty much everyone in Scotland thinks he's the greatest thing ever. But on his way home from that battle, his triumphant ride takes a very strange turn. He and his buddy Banquo stumble across 3 witches who are about to drop some serious spoilers about his future.
They hit him with this 2-part prophecy that, at first, sounds completely ridiculous. I mean, Thane of Cawdor? King of Scotland? It sounds totally impossible.
But here's the kicker, the really crucial point. Almost immediately, messengers from the king arrive. And what do they tell him? That he is the new Thane of Cawdor. Just like that. The first domino has fallen, and you can practically hear the gears turning in Macbeth's head. And this right here, this is the turning point. With one prophecy confirmed, that whole runaway train of ambition thing starts to feel very, very real. Macbeth starts to wonder, should he just, wait for the second part to happen? Or should he maybe help it along a little? So he writes a letter to his wife, the one and only Lady Macbeth, and tells her everything. And let me tell you, she is immediately all in. Her big worry is that her husband is, and I'm quoting here, too full o' the milk of human kindness to do what needs to be done. This line right here brilliantly illustrates her whole game plan. It's a key theme of the play, appearance versus reality. She tells him, look, put on a friendly face for the king, who's coming to stay at our castle, but be ready to strike. She's got it all figured out. They'll get the king's guards drunk and frame them for the whole thing. Okay, so now we're in Act 2. The plan is set in motion, but as the moment of the murder gets closer, you can see the psychological pressure is really, really getting to Macbeth. Right before he does the deed, his mind just starts to fracture. He has this terrifying hallucination of a bloody dagger just floating in the air, pointing the way to King Duncan's room. It's a huge sign of the guilt that's already eating him alive. So he goes through with it, but it's a complete mess. He's so horrified by what he's done that he forgets the plan and brings the bloody daggers back with him. Lady Macbeth basically has to yell at him, take charge, and finish the cover-up herself. And immediately after, he is just completely overwhelmed. In one of the most famous lines in all of literature, he looks at his hands and wonders if all the water in the entire ocean could ever wash away the stain of what he's done. And then in stark contrast, you have his wife. She comes back, her hands are just as bloody, and she says this. For her, it's just a practical problem. Just wash your hands and move on. The psychological damage, it hasn't hit her yet. So the next morning, it's total chaos. Macbeth discovers the body and, in a supposed fit of rage, kills the framed guards. Meanwhile, the king's sons flee the country because they're scared for their own lives. This makes them look super guilty and clears the path for Macbeth to be crowned king. Prophecy fulfilled. So, there you have it. Macbeth gets exactly what he wanted. But that runaway train of his ambition? Oh, it is not stopping at the station. In fact, it's just picking up more speed. He can't even enjoy being king because he's obsessed with the other part of the prophecy, the part that said his friend Banquo's kids will be kings. And that makes his own terrible crime feel kind of hollow, even pointless. So what does he do? To protect his throne, he decides he has to get rid of Banquo and his young son Fleance. And as you can see here, he's now trapped in this awful cycle of violence. He murdered Duncan to get power, murdered the guards to cover his tracks, and now he has to murder Banquo to secure that power. See, one violent act just leads to another. He hires a couple of murderers to ambush them, but the plan only half works. They kill Banquo, but his son, Fleance, escapes into the night. For Macbeth, this is a complete disaster. The threat to his throne is still out there. The guilt and the paranoia, it all just boils over in a very, very public way. At this huge state dinner he's throwing, Macbeth sees the bloody ghost of Banquo sitting in his chair. He starts shouting at what to everyone else is just empty air. He has a complete meltdown right in front of all the nobles. After the banquet disaster, once everyone's gone, Macbeth says this. He finally gets it. He understands this terrifying truth, that violence only creates more violence. He's stepped into a river of blood, and at this point, it's just as hard to go back as it is to keep going forward. He's completely and utterly trapped. So by the end of Act 3, you can just see the wreckage from this runaway train of ambition piling up all around him. Think about it. He started as a hero on a fast track to glory, but the train of his ambition has no brakes. It's already crashed through his loyalty, his sanity, and his morality, leaving a trail of bodies behind him.
And that leaves us with a final question for now. Macbeth decides he needs to go back and find the witches to get more information. But he's not really trying to control his fate anymore, is he? He's just desperately trying to stay one step ahead of the disaster he himself created. What comes next is a total masterclass in tyranny and self-destruction.